time to get comfy and talk about some books. Yeah. Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to today's video. I have already attempted to record this once and I just felt so not myself in that video, so I thought I would scrap it, start again, go from the top. If you couldn't tell from the title, today's video is a reading wrap up. Now, I'm a slow reader. I was going to say I've always been a slow reader. I haven't necessarily always been a slow reader, but I am. Compared to some readers out there, I am quite slow. So the amount of books that I've read so far this year can equate to what people read in a month. So that's why I don't usually do monthly wrap-ups, because 9 times out of 10 I haven't read more than 2 books. So that's why I usually condense these down. But I've now got a decent stack of books that I can talk about. Most of these books have been in reading vlogs, so you can obviously definitely check those out if you want my in-time reactions to these books. I'll just crack on. There's really no need to ramble. The first book I'm going to start with is the current only DNF of 2025, which is very exciting. It's nice to not have loads of DNFs on the list. And that is No More Secrets by Lucy Score. Now, it was such a shame that I DNF'd this, because it was exactly what I was looking for at the time. A rom-com, small town, grumpy sunshine, it was the perfect palette cleanser that I was looking for, and it was going really well until the first spice scene came up. Now, I don't have an issue with spice. I am a spice reader myself, and the spice itself wasn't the issue. It was what the MMC thought. So we were in the perspective of the MMC, and he had this thought that just gave me the biggest ick, and it really put me off him, and honestly a little bit off Lucy Score as a writer, because I was a bit shocked that a female author wrote a line like that into the book. It made me uncomfortable. I didn't like it, and it instantly put me off the book, and I had no desire to pick it back up at all. Okay, so I am going to do these in chronological order from when I read them. So we're going all the way back to January. I say January. I don't think I actually read anything in January, so this is probably more like February. But this was my first finished book of the year. I didn't start this year. I started this last year, but I finished it at the start of this year. And that is Percy Jackson and the Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan. This is the 4th book in the Percy Jackson Olympus series. I can't obviously say much because it's the 4th book in a series, but what I can say is, even though it's taken me some time to get through this book, I really, really enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Hang on. Yeah, so it was 4 out of 5 stars, which I think overall is what I've given a lot of the books in this series so far. Now, if you didn't know, I love Greek mythology so much. I love it. And I feel like the Percy Jackson series is such a staple in Greek mythological retellings. Instead of retelling, I say it wasn't a retelling, these aren't retellings, these are bringing the Greek myths into the modern world, I guess, in a sense. If you didn't know, the premise of Percy Jackson is about Percy Jackson, and he essentially discovers that he is the half-blood son of Poseidon, and he is sent away to Camp Half-Blood, where all the half-bloods basically go for the summer to train and, essentially become Olympian-like heroes, kinda, I think. And he obviously meets other half-bloods that are children of other Olympian gods and goddesses. The thing that makes kind of Percy Jackson special is the big 3, which is Zeus, Poseidon and Hades. They made a deal that they weren't gonna sire any more children, because the children that these 3 gods were siring were just causing absolute mayhem on Earth. So they basically made a pact that none of them would sire any more children. Clearly that didn't quite go to plan. And it just follows Percy Jackson and his friends through trials and tribulations. How this book ended, I am definitely excited to see how the series is going to conclude. I say conclude, the 5th book isn't even the last book anymore. I'm pretty sure Rick Riordan has published a 6th book in the series, so it's not even like the 5th book is the last book anymore. But I really liked the development that we had in this book. There's a character that we get introduced, I want to say in the 3rd book, I think we get introduced to him. I find him really intriguing, and I think the spin-off series, the Heroes of Olympus, is based around him. But I'm very intrigued by this certain character, and I think he's going to play quite a big part in the next book. He played quite a big part in this book. This book is very much set up for the big climax of the next book, which I am really looking forward to. I feel like I'm around 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. Really looking forward to reading the rest of the series. Moving on. Okay, let's try not ramble, Victoria. We've got stuff to get through. Okay. So the next book I don't have with me physically, but I did read in a reading vlog, and that is Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Now, this again is a continuation of a series of Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. This book was really, really sweet. Something that I spoke about a lot with my friend when I was reading this book is I've only ever read this series when it comes to Japanese translation. I haven't read any other form of Japanese translation, but the feel that I get with this book series, and also just other Japanese media that I've interacted with, like TV shows, animes, movies, Japanese authors and creators just have this wonderful way of delivering serious messages through such a gentle way. I can't quite pinpoint what exactly it is, but they have such a beautiful way of making the mundane everyday magical. That is something that I love about this book series so far. Not Tales from the Cafe, that's the second one, which is what I currently read, but the Before the Coffee Gets Cold is basically about a cafe in Tokyo where you can go and visit, and if you sit in a certain seat, you can travel in time, but there are kind of catches and rules you need to follow, and one of those rules is you need to return to the present before the coffee that you've ordered gets cold. These books, each chapter follows a different person or people that use this, and it just explores the really beautiful everyday lives of these people, but also a lot of challenging, heartbreaking things as well. I really want to read more Japanese translated fiction. I've got some Korean translated fiction, which is giving very similar vibes that I'm really excited to read. Really, really beautiful. They're really good, like, I guess, palette cleanser books, but they've got depth to them, these books. So don't go in thinking it's all going to be sparkles and sunshines, because it's really not. I rated Tales from the Cafe 3.75, so really enjoyed it. At some point I do plan to continue with the series. Okay, the next book was a bit of a surprise to me, and the reason I picked this book up, I originally had no intention of actually finishing this series, and I can't quite remember why, but it's in a reading vlog that I did, but for some reason I decided to give this book a go to complete the series, because it is the last book in a trilogy, and I ended up really enjoying it, and that is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. Now, The Cruel Prince and the Wicked King, I think I rated The Cruel Prince 2 stars and The Wicked King I think 3 or 3.4, I don't know, something along those lines. I really did not overly get along with the first 2 books, and I can't quite understand why I picked up The Queen of Nothing, but I'm really glad that I did, because I really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4 out of 5 stars. The issues that I had with the first 2 books still kind of persisted within this book. However, I just think the characters I got on a lot more in this book. Our main character, Jude, she annoyed me so much in the first 2 books, but I loved her in this book. I thought the relationship between Jude and Carden was so much better in this book. I really loved the political intrigue in this book. I found it so much more engaging. I was just more engaged in the world in general. I just really enjoyed it. I had so much fun reading this, and it's made me actually intrigued about the spin-off duology that she has written, which follows Jude's younger brother. I was genuinely surprised with how much I enjoyed this book, and I haven't completely written off Holly Black as an author. I would say, because I know my opinions is shared with some people, so I would say if you have tried The Cruel Prince and didn't get on with it, give The Wicked King a go. It does get better, but I do think it's annoying to have to say like, oh, you know, just keep pushing through, because I feel like books shouldn't have to get, you know, better and better to enjoy it. Like, you should be able to enjoy it from the first book. I'm really happy that I did continue with the series and that I've been able to wrap it up, and that the series does end with a nice conclusion. Okay, the next book that I have read, I am typing everything in wrong. The next book that I read, I have quite a few like 3.5 to 4.25s in this video, which is quite fun. Anyways, the next book I read, I needed a bit of change of pace, and I thought what best to do this during the week of Valentine's Day is to read a bunch of romances. And the first romance that I picked up was The Love of My Afterlife by Kirsty Greenwood. So I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. I kind of want to bump it up a little bit to like 4.25 because I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed this book. I think I had like one main gripe with one of the characters, but apart from that, I just thoroughly enjoyed this book. I enjoyed our main character. I enjoyed that even though when I first started the book, I expected it to go one way and it actually kind of went into another direction. That was really fun. When I realised the direction of the book was turning, I did kind of predict where it was going, but I wasn't expecting that going into the book. So it was still quite a nice surprise to have that. This book covers so much more than just romance. It covers just, I guess, relationships in general, not just romantic ones, but friendships, relationships with family, with parents, and like relationships with yourself. There is a lot more depth to this book than meets the eye, and I have seen this kind of making the rounds on BookTube, which was quite fun because I didn't think many people knew about this book. The premise of this book is our main character, Delphi, and this is not a spoiler because you can probably guess from the title alone, literally the first line of the book is her dying. And she is like in her mid-20s, she's very much lived a kind of slower paced life, hasn't really done much, but she's not exactly upset about it. She's just kind of just trundled through life, and she ends up, I think, like choking on like a microwaved sandwich or something, and she ends up going to the afterlife. And when she gets to the afterlife, she meets her afterlife therapist, who basically says, you know, you haven't really done anything with your life, blah 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 blah, you've never been in love, all of this jazz. And then suddenly somebody kind of stumbles in on their meeting, and it is a man. And there is an instant spark, an instant connection with this man. The afterlife therapist goes, you're actually not supposed to be here, sir. You've got some living to do, and sends him back to the land of the living. And our main character's like, pretty sure he was my soulmate. The plot of the story is Delphi is sent back to the living for 10 days. And within those 10 days, she needs to find the man that she met in the afterlife, have him fall in love with her in those 10 days, but he also has no recollection of meeting her in the afterlife. Yeah, there's so much more to it than that. It's so fun, light-hearted and funny, but there's this underlining depth to it that I think in this day, like, I think if you're a fan of Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez, I think you would really enjoy this book. Okay, next book we have, sticking with the romance theme because I was doing a romance reading vlog, we had one of my most anticipated releases of the year, which was Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Now, I think I rated this 3.5. Let me have a quick look, because if that's the case, yeah, I did 3.5. I love Ali Hazelwood. This is no secret, this is no surprise. I love the woman's writing, and she is an auto-buy for me. But this book is not my favourite that she's written. Upon reflection, there are kind of some more issues that I have with it, but the main plot of this story is that our main character, Scarlett, is in university, and she is an Olympic diver. And our other main character, who is Lucas, he is an Olympic swimmer. I think he's just like a swimmer. And Lucas is Scarlett's best friend's ex. It's the premise of the story is basically Scarlett and Lucas come to a friends with benefits arrangement, and it just explores their relationship while also while they're going through their own healing journeys. I did enjoy it. I always enjoy Ali Hazelwood's books, but I just didn't really connect with the characters like I have in her previous books. They're intertwined throughout this book. There was snippets of Scarlett's therapy sessions that she has, and I think that had potential, but they didn't really go anywhere. They didn't really bring anything to the plot, which I felt was quite flat and a bit disheartening, when it kind of gives the impression that therapy doesn't help and it doesn't really get you anywhere. And the thing that was kind of helping Scarlett heal from like traumas and things was Lucas, which is great, and people do help you heal, but I was a bit like, you haven't really outlined how the therapy is helping her. It was like a dead end, didn't really go anywhere, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but I kind of felt like it wasn't needed. And there was like this other side plot that was happening that was just a bit odd to me, and like the third act conflict was just a bit, I don't know, I didn't connect to it as much as I did with her previous books, but I still enjoyed it. It's an Ali Hazelwood. I really like how she writes. My brain just digests it so easily. So yeah, I still enjoyed it. It just wasn't my favourite. Okay, the next book I don't have with me physically again. It's at home. But this I picked up for a themed reading vlog that I'm kind of currently filming at the minute. And I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars again, and that is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. Now, I have already read this book before, but I read it when it kind of first came out, which I think was 2012. Probably a good over 10 years, or 10 years or so since I had last read this book. I read this when I was first on BookTube, and I remember loving it and eating the Lunar Chronicles as a series up. Just gobbled it up like a big old slice of cake. Revisiting this book has just, it was such a joy and pleasure to read, and I totally understand the love for rereading a series, because the foreshadowing that happened in this book, for not just like future on in the book but future on in the series, so good. It was so good, and it's just made me want to pick up the rest of the series again and read through the whole thing again. Marissa Meyer is renowned, I think it obviously started with this series, but she is renowned for her fairy tale retellings, and if you couldn't guess from the title, Cinder is a retelling of Cinderella, but it is set in a futuristic alternate universe where there is civilization on Earth, but then there is also a civilization on the moon called the Lunars, and the relationship between the Lunars and the humans on Earth is it's rocky, it's not great. And Cinder is a cyborg, and cyborgs exist on Earth, and that is what Cinder is. And cyborgs are very much frowned upon. They've not really seen as full humans or full machines, because robots and machinery and androids exist. Very futuristic, very sci-fi. Overarching plot of this book is that one of Cinder's sisters gets this plague that has been running rampant on Earth, and it's very deadly, and the best way I can compare it is to like the Black Plague. So Cinder's sister gets this plague, and there is a kind of program in place where cyborgs can offer themselves for testing for an antidote, and Cinder's horrendous stepmother basically forces Cinder into this program, and Cinder is then sent to the palace where these trials and these new drugs are taking place. And guess who lives in the palace? The prince. So you can obviously guess, because it is a Cinderella retelling, you you can see where it's going to go. The unique twist that Marissa Meyer did to this fairy tale was just brilliant, and revisiting this version of Earth and this sci-fi-esque, it's not even esque, it is sci-fi. She did such a good job. One of the things I really enjoyed is, even though it is a YA, she's got the balance of the characters acting their age, but like they're not immature or they're not too mature. They're like, Cinder is 16, the prince is 18. I feel really bad because I can't remember his name. I just feel like even though there's still some serious things happening in the book, and sometimes in a YA book I'm reading it and I'm like, this character, if they're really 16, they would not be acting like this. They're acting like they're in their 20s. But I didn't find that with Cinder. There was definitely moments when Cinder's youth shone through her character, but she also handled things in a way that I think, you know, a 16-year-old that's been through quite traumatic things would still handle them in a mature manner, if that makes sense. I don't know. I just think Marissa Meyer balanced it perfectly. It's a really lovely YA. Just, I highly recommend it, especially to people like myself recently, who is kind of getting a little fed up of the romanticy insta love lust that is definitely within that genre at the minute. I would definitely recommend the Lunar Chronicles. Highly recommend. So the next book that I read, because I had such a fun time with Cinder and I really wanted to continue with kind of like the YA romance fantasy vibe, Wings of Starlight by Alison Saft. Okay, so I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Tinkerbell loving teen in me squealed when I saw this in Waterstones, and this book follows Queen Clarion from the Tinkerbell movies, but it follows her when she was younger, kind of preparing to become the Queen of Pixie Hollow. I loved this book. It was a joy and a pleasure to read. The Queen Clarion from the movies differs to the Queen Clarion we get in this book. I struggled to connect the two as the same character, so I kind of had to semi-detach myself from the Queen Clarion that I know to kind of appreciate the Queen Clarion we get in this book. But once I had done that, I loved her. I loved her as a female main character. I thought she was brilliant. Her values and her morals just matched mine to a T. She was young and cheeky, but she also had this authority about her. And the romance in this book with Mallory, the yearning that we get in this book, the tension, it was so good. Oh, just, if you're craving the build up, you know, I think this is why YA is having a bit of a resurgence with fantasy readers, because I think we're missing that yearning, that, you know, their eyes hold for just a second too long, or their hands brush against each other, and when they finally like kiss, it feels like fireworks. Like, it's just so good. And Mallory as a main character as well, all this man wants to do is support her. That's all he wants to do. I love this book. I would happily read more books in the Pixie Hollow universe. I think Alison Saft's writing was beautiful. I could just picture each seasons that is explored in this book stunningly. Like, she has such magical writing, which is obviously perfect for this setting. Really recommend, again, for my fantasy romantasy lovers that are craving the slow burn and the yearning. This and Cinder. Okay, so the next book that I read was, again, another anticipated release for me, and it's currently the only 5-star on this list. The Strawberry Patch Pancake House by Laurie Gilmore. This is the 4th book in the Dream Harbour Interconnected Standalone series. Every book in this series so far has been 5 stars. I love this series so much. It is my escapism book series. Much like Ali Hazelwood, my brain just loves Laurie Gilmore's writing style. It's just so easy. The found family that is built within this series is beautiful. This series just basically gives Gilmore Girls vibes. So if you love Gilmore Girls, please pick this book series up. This book follows our character Iris, who we meet in the previous book, The Christmas Tree Farm. This had tropes in that I didn't expect to like, but I loved them. So we've got close proximity because Iris basically becomes a stay-at-home nanny for Archer, who has newly moved to Dream Harbour to meet his, I think she's 3 or 5, one of the two, very young daughter. So it's single dad trope as well. I think another thing that I like about the Dream Harbour books, not as intensely as, for example, Love of My Afterlife or some Emily Henry books, but there is still a depth to these books. There's still a serious kind of message that is addressed throughout these books, because that's what life is. And I think in contemporary romances, in rom-coms, you still need to have some sort of serious element woven into it, because life has those serious moments. But these are done so, I guess, lightheartedly in a sense that it's a pleasure to read about. I loved the dynamic between our characters. It was grumpy sunshine, wonderful. I loved Olive, who is the daughter in this book. She was just so cute. I did not think I was going to like the tropes in this book, but I really enjoyed them. And this is a slow burn. There is the kind of instant attraction from the beginning that these characters meet, but because these are spicy books, but the spice doesn't kick in till like over halfway. I think there's only like 2, maybe 3 spice scenes. And this was another book that made me realise that I like the tension and I like the slow burn. I loved it. I really enjoyed it. 5 stars. I read it in a day. I cannot wait for the Gingerbread Bakery, which I think is the last book in this series. Oh, I'm gonna be so sad when this series finishes. So yeah, I have nothing else to say apart from that. I love this series. I love these characters. I love the found family. I love Laurie Gilmore's writing. It's not like groundbreaking, earth-shattering, amazing writing, but my brain loves it and I eat it up every time. Okay, moving on from the romance genre back to fantasy. Legendary by Stephanie Garber, the second book in the Caraval trilogy. Okay. I rated this 4 out of 5 stars. A lot of 4 stars this year. I enjoyed this more than Caraval, I believe. Much like in the ACOTAR series, a lot of people don't like Nesta as a character. I love Nesta. I loved her from book 1. I have a very similar relationship with Donatella. In the first book, Scarlett, the main character of Caraval, kind of annoyed me. I can't lie. Donatella really annoyed me in the first book. So I was a bit hesitant going into this book knowing that Donatella is the main character of it. But I really liked her as the main character. I got on with her so much more in this book. And Scarlett just continued to annoy me. I can't lie to you. So we re-enter the world of Caraval in this book, but through the eyes of Donatella. And we are basically trying to find Scarlett and Donatella's mother. And to do this, Donatella basically makes some deals and arrangements with some other people, some other characters in this book, which gets her back into the game of Caraval, essentially. We have romance in this book, of course. I did enjoy the romance, but I wasn't obsessed with it. You know, I was rooting for her and this character, but I wasn't like super obsessed. Yeah, very whimsical, very kind of Alice in Wonderland-esque vibes that I get from this. I am definitely intrigued for finale, the third and final book in this trilogy, to kind of see how it's all going to conclude and wrap up. The way it ended, this is something that also happened with Caraval. The ending got me jaw to the floor, gooped and gagged. I need to know what happens next, and I'm curious to see whose perspective we're following. Are we going to be following Scarlett, Donatella, or both? I'm very intrigued by that. But yeah, I feel like the last book some stuff is going to go down, and I'm ready for it. Okay, these next two books I'm going to kind of talk about in conjunction to one another because they are part of the same series and I read them back to back. My last reading vlog that I did was on these books, kind of. I read a book. Anyway. Powerful and Reckless by Lauren Roberts. Okay, so Powerful I rated 4.5 and Reckless I rated 3.75. So let's talk about Powerful first because I read that first. This little novella broke my heart, but I loved it. I loved this book so much. So if you didn't know, this is the novella in the Powerless series, but it's a tandem read with Powerless. You don't have to tandem read it. It's kind of recommended that you do. Like even Lauren Roberts recommended that you tandem read this while you read Powerless because it gives you the perspective of things from Adina, who is Payden's best friend. I love Adina so much. Her character, she is like the epitome of gentle, soft, but strong. And I really loved that Lauren Roberts put a spotlight on those kind of characters because typically in fantasy, the main female character is like the badass, fighting, punching, sword wielding kind of character. And they're great and we love them. But the gentle best friend side characters usually just get pushed to the side and are typically seen like weaker. But Adina is not weak in the slightest. She is not weak at all, and that is shown so beautifully in this book. There is a romance. We are introduced to Makoto. Did I feel like the romance was a little bit unnecessary? Just slightly, but I still loved it and I still really enjoyed Mac's character. It took me a bit more time to warm to him, more because I was more interested in Adina. Their relationship that they grow together is beautiful. Grumpy Sunshine, epitome of Grumpy Sunshine. Loved the dynamic between the two characters so much. Even though I knew how this book was going to end because of how Powerless ended, it's a bit like, you know, Romeo and Juliet. You know how it's going to end because you get told from the beginning, but you still soak up every second of it, and a part of you still kind of hopes that it's not going to end in a certain way, but it still ends a certain way. But I still loved it, and if you go watch my reading vlog of this, you will see how much I cried because of this book. But I think one of the reasons I love it so much, and that I think Lauren Roberts' writing in general is very beautiful, but this book is such a clear love letter to the character Adina, and I felt that through every single page of this book. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the other novellas she plans to release in this series, because I think it expanded on the world as well in a really beautiful way. We see more of the slums and that kind of part of Ilia that we don't see in Powerless, because obviously Payden is in the castle doing the trials and things, so we don't really get to see the slums. But this book we explore the slums a bit more and we get to see that side of Ilia, and I think, yeah, it was a really beautiful way of expanding the world for us. I think Lauren Roberts did a really good job, so fabulous. 4.5, tore my heart out. And then because I just needed to go straight, I had to go straight to Reckless. Like I couldn't not then stay in this world. I had my Ilia fix and I needed to keep going, so I picked up Reckless. This took me a little bit longer to get through, more just because of circumstances with personal life, but I rated this 3.75. Really enjoyed it. I understand why people say it's got like middle book syndrome, why they say it's very repetitive, that nothing really happens in the book. I recently watched a Lauren Roberts interview on a podcast that she did, and she was basically saying like, obviously she totally understands people's thoughts and opinions on this book, but she still feels like it's a really necessary book, and I would agree with her. I really don't think this book is a waste of time. I think it is really necessary, especially with where Fearless, from the sounds of it, is going, and how this book ends to kind of then lead on to Fearless. I really think, even though this story essentially just revolves around Payden and Kai, forced proximity, It starts off as like a cat and mouse chase, and then it's like a forced proximity situation. It's very much focused on their relationship rather than kind of the world and what's happening. And I think that's why people could say it got a bit boring, because it didn't really build upon the plot, the political plot of the first book of Powerless, even though it does a little bit, but not massively. It's definitely more focused on Payden and Kai's relationship. But I really enjoyed it. I really think sometimes a slow-paced fantasy is needed, and that's kind of what this book is. And I really enjoyed it. I really love Lauren Roberts' writing. She writes so beautifully, and I felt like these two characters, I love these two characters. I think their relationship and their love-hate for each other is brilliant. Ticks all the boxes for me, you know, feeds that enemies to lovers trope that everybody loves in a good fantasy. I am so excited for Fearless. I'm just waiting for it to come out in paperback because I'm a paperback gal. But I did predict how this was going to end. Well, firstly, it was kind of ruined for me. I kind of spoiled it for myself, which I was kind of upset about. But the hinting and foreshadowing, I knew where it was going anyways. But that didn't take away from the ending whatsoever. I'm so excited to pick up Fearless. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I do definitely think it was worth the read. I don't think it was a waste of time at all. I have no idea how long I've been rambling on for, but those are all the books that I've read so far this year. It's been a good reading year so far. There's only been one DNF, which is brilliant, and all the other books have been 3.5 or above. So that's great news. I'm loving life at the minute when it comes to my reading. But yeah, that is everything for today's video. Please let me know down below what books you've been reading this year and what your favourite book has been. Obviously, my favourite book has been The Strawberry Patch Pancake House. I just loved it. But yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!